Hello everyone, you have come to Tada Comic Preview channel. Let read together. Have fun. Emperor Yengu, do you know your crime? You killed your fellow disciples, executed your teachers, and exterminated your clan to achieve your goal. Do you know your crime? You imprisoned your brother, murdered your immortal father, and for your own selfish desires, you harmed all the priests. Do you know your crime? You slaughtered thousands of miles of blood, exterminated billions of lives, dyed thousands of miles with blood, and caused the earth to wail. Do you know your crime? The cold and indifferent voices kept ringing in everyone's ears. The person who was surrounded by the crowd was still sitting on the throne as if nothing had happened. That person had a peerless face, dressed in black, with a purple headband that tied up half of her black hair, and the other half was scattered behind her, making her even more charming. Her posture was still high and mighty. She was seen leaning lazily on the throne, casually raising a cup, and smiling charmingly at the people around her. Why are you guys here just now? My good brother and sister-in-law, why didn't they come? Oh, they must be busy succeeding to the throne. Yengu lowered his eyes and took a sip of the rare tea in his hand. He narrowed his phoenix eyes and looked at the man who spoke. My dear brother, I did do all those things of yours, but so what? I have my own intentions when I do things. Yengu, you are full of evil. I will judge you on behalf of the Tao. The man who spoke was one of the great emperors in the God realm, Qingyang Emperor Luo Ziyin. His temperament was cold and extraordinary, but his eyes were full of hatred when he looked at Yengu, and he wished to eat his flesh and drink his blood. Yengu was not angry but laughed. My dear brother, I haven't seen you for so many years, your temper has changed a lot. Back then, you were soft and cute, really adorable. Yengu, shut up. My parents were kind enough to take you in, but you were ungrateful and killed them. You are worse than a beast. And my senior sister and master, they are so good to you, how can you be so cruel? Luo Ziyin's eyes were red as he looked at Yengu with hatred. If looks could kill, Yengu would have died 100 times already. If you don't, I would have almost forgotten it. This happened many years ago. Yengu looked at the shaking cup in his hand and could not help but sigh. I didn't expect that I have lived in this world for so long. Thinking back then, she had just graduated from college when she was diagnosed with a serious illness, but she never gave up hope and persisted with her dreams. Until she couldn't hold on any longer, she came to this world. When she learned that as long as she died naturally in this world, she could return to the original world. So she kept trying to die in order to go back. This world is a world she has seen before. The villains in it died one more miserably than the other, so she decided to stay with the villains and look for opportunities to die. It's just that she was in tears when she got up. She did experience all kinds of death by the side of the villains. However, she couldn't die. Not only that, but she became stronger and stronger. Look. Xian became the emperor of the upper realm. Fortunately, looking at the countless people who clamored for her to die, this time finally came. Yengu couldn't hide her inner excitement at this time. She has been in this world for a long time. However, in the eyes of everyone, this is the first time that Yengu has shown other emotions in front of them. In their eyes? This is definitely proof of guilt. Yengu, don't think that you can erase all the evil things you have done by just saying forget it. Long Yanche looked at Yengu with the same disgusted eyes, wishing to tear him into pieces. At the same time, he urged Luo Ziyin. Luo Ziyin, stop talking nonsense, and do it quickly. Long Yanche's voice successfully attracted Lin Yang's attention. His long platinum-colored hair was handsome and made her see him at a glance. She looked at him with her eyes slightly moving, and gestured with her hand to measure the length. Long, I think back then, you were still a dragon, thin and long, like a snake. You were the most useless half-dragon in your tribe. At that time, you became a dragon and wanted to be my mount. I didn't expect that there would be you standing here. Shut up. Yengu, you wiped out my entire dragon clan, I wish you would die. Yengu smiled and looked at the others. There were many people who stared at them with hatred, but Di Yang'a didn't care. At this time, she was in a very good mood because she would be able to go home soon. So she laughed even more happily. Her enchanting face was so stunning that people couldn't take their eyes off it, and everyone became even more angry. Back then, she used such a face to deceive one woman after another, dying for her, giving everything for her, and even losing their souls. But Di Yang'a actually wanted to seduce them, which made them sick. Luo Xin, hurry up. She wants to seduce us again. Di Yang'a looked at the owner of the voice. This person was wearing a loose purple robe, a golden crown and black hair, with an amazing face. He was also an old acquaintance. So Di Yang'a deliberately said something that was easy to irritate. Di Yang'a, you have committed many crimes. Today, we all beg God to punish the demon emperor and punish him. A golden mirror flew out from Luo Xin's body. Di Yang'a saw the mirror, his eyes moved slightly, and his face changed drastically on the spot. Luo Xin, what are you doing? You can just judge me directly. I admit what I did. Why do you have to make it public? If this is made public, what will happen? Di Yang'a, you are still afraid sometimes. Mo Chonglu said disdainfully, could it be that you have done something that scares you more than death? As soon as these words came out, even the onlookers who came to watch began to chatter and speculate. Di Yang'e, the evil demon emperor, must have some unforgivable secret. Otherwise, she would never be so excited. Yes, I guess she probably has a big conspiracy and doesn't want others to know. Do you think she has done something even more evil? While everyone was chattering and speculating, a man in the crowd was staring at Di Yang'e with resentful eyes. Di Yang'e couldn't sit still any longer, so he immediately stood up from the throne and planned to escape from here. However, it was too late. The golden mirror had already flown to her head, and a wide golden pillar covered her there, making her unable to move. Di Yang'e wanted to cry but had no tears. This mirror was a divine tool sent down by the Tao, which could be used to punish evil and promote good. However, this function was extremely troublesome to use. It required 10 gods with great emperor-level cultivation, each of whom consumed 80% of their cultivation, to activate this mirror. Once activated, they would be punished most severely by the Tao. Of course, things will turn around when they reach the extreme. If the person inside has great merit, he will also receive unimaginable rewards. However, people in the world are always greedy, and even gods cannot have never done anything wrong. However, as long as they are covered by this Taoist mirror and do something that is slightly against their original intention, even if they don't die, they will lose all their cultivation and become a useless person. However, these people went too far. They would judge her if they wanted to, but why did they peek at her past? Everyone felt extremely happy when they saw Di Yang'e in a panic. In their opinion, a sinner like her who has committed so many evil deeds will never die. At least she will be tortured by the Tao mirror to the point where she is worse off than dead before she will die. Di Yang'e stood in the light column, her black robe trailing, making her look even more noble and dazzling, making people unable to look away. However, there was some excitement in her voice. Don't waste time. Can't you just judge her directly? Di Yang'e, don't dream. Your evil deeds are too numerous to list. Today, we will have the most fair trial in front of the Tao and all the mercy. Of course, no one cares whether it is fair or not. They just want Di Yang'e to receive the most severe punishment, and under this artifact, the punishment will be multiplied. When everyone saw Di Yang'e's hesitation, they knew that this time, they were absolutely right. Di Yang'e's face was livid, and he tried to attack the golden pillar. When the golden pillar was formed, it was futile for people inside or outside to do anything. People outside could not get in, and people inside could not get out. Unless the Tao trial was over. Di Yang'e's face was heavy. If she had known, she would not have pretended. She did not expect that these people would not follow common sense. They wanted to kill her, but they also looked at her past. Thinking of what she had done, she felt that her old face was about to be lost. At this time, a circular light curtain appeared in front of the golden pillar. as long as everyone present could see very clearly what was happening in the light curtain. In the light curtain, a dirty boy appeared. The boy looked only about 8 years old. She fell on the side of the road, her body was in a mess, and her hair blocked her face, so she could not see her face clearly. When people passing by saw the boy, they covered their noses and left. Maybe others could not recognize the boy, but Di recognized the boy at a glance. Isn't that her when she just crossed over? At that time, the original owner died, and she just crossed over. She did not have the original owner's memory, and was mistaken for a boy, so she simply dressed as a man. At that time, she thought that after becoming a man, she would be a brother with the villain, and compete with the male protagonist for resources and beauties, and then she would definitely be able to die. It's just that the idea is very good, but the reality is cruel. I thought of this and posted it here. Everything that happened in her life was filled with her sad tears. She never expected that this broken mirror would actually let her do the stupid things she did. It was obviously impossible to stop it. Di could only sit back on the throne with a sullen face and close his eyes to pretend to sleep. In the light curtain, a group of children were coming towards her. When they saw the boy lying on the ground, they began to throw stones at her. Although the boy was unconscious, he probably felt the pain and couldn't help but shrink his body. He looked very pitiful. Stop! Finally someone appeared and stopped the group of children. When the children saw someone appear, they immediately ran very fast. Dad, Mom. Luo Xin couldn't help but burst into tears when she saw a pair of handsome men and beautiful women appearing in the light curtain. His parents were such kind-hearted people. When they saw someone being bullied, they would not help but stand up for them. But such kind people did not die well, and not even a complete body was left. The boy was taken back by the Luo couple. This boy had the same facial features as Di and it was obvious at a glance that she was Di when she was a child. Unexpectedly, their crazy emperor was still quite cute when he was young. Luo's mother took the boy's hand and asked, "What's your name? Is there anyone else at home? I'll have someone send you back." Di said cautiously, "My name is Yen Ge. I have no family." "Yen, then you stay here and keep my son company. He is about the same age as you, and you will definitely get along." "Okay." Di looked at Luo's father and mother, smiling brightly, and he was really romantic. Luo Xin, who was outside the light curtain, had tears in his eyes. Letting the wolf into the house. If his mother hadn't been kind enough to keep her, they wouldn't have died. The voices of the crowd of spectators also came at the same time. I didn't expect that Di has always been so scheming. In order not to become a beggar, she deliberately used that cute face to please the parents of Emperor Qingyang. Look at her smiling face, it's really hypocritical. So you can't judge a person by his appearance, and you must not look at the surface when looking at things. Some people are very good at disguise. But isn't Di the child of the immortal emperor? Why is she in the mortal world and a beggar? I know this. At the beginning, it was said that a fox demon seduced the immortal emperor and gave birth to Di Ge. The fox demon died unexpectedly when Di Ge was 8 years old. This child is very scheming. After knowing her identity, she wanted to ask the immortal emperor for a status. But this kind of monster who confuses the divine veins is not worthy of being the child of the immortal emperor. This kind of monster should have been executed directly, but the immortal emperor couldn't bear it, so he sealed her memory and divine veins in bones and demoted her to the mortal world. Di couldn't help rolling her eyes when she heard these words. She has already broken the pot, so let these people watch if they want. Fortunately, the light curtain was considerate enough not to expose the picture of her bathing, otherwise it would be a shame. Inside the light curtain, Luo Xin ran to Di and looked at Di with a really ignorant look. "Brother, you are so beautiful. Can I marry you in the future?" "Not yet." As everyone sighed, they heard Di serious promise, "That's not bad, but I will definitely protect you with my life in the future." Of course, this statement was met with endless contempt from everyone. Since Di Yanghe was taken in by the Luo couple, she began to go to school with Luo Ziyin. Originally, Luo Ziyin was already very good in the school, until Di Yanghe appeared, all eyes seemed to be focused on her. Whether it was poetry, songs, or writing, Di Yanghe only read them once and was very familiar with them. He could also draw inferences from one example and made the teacher speechless. Di Yange's face was full of innocence. Of course, his mind was not pure. Because this Luo Ziyin was the first villain in the story, she must follow his steps to death. Di Yanghe looked at the silly and cute look when she first crossed over. It was also because she was young and energetic at that time, and she really couldn't stand this stubborn old man, so she said something. Unexpectedly, the old man not only did not bear grudges, but also advised her to take the exam for the top scholar. He even went to the Luo family couple for this. It was precisely because of this that she always felt guilty, because the kindness of the old man indirectly led to his death. Later, when she met the descendants of the old man, she went to help him, but this group was full of tragic things. Di Yanghe couldn't help but sigh. And Luo Ziyin's hatred had already blinded his eyes. When he saw Di Yanghe sighing, he looked at her with resentment. Di Yanghe, don't be hypocritical. You think that if you said those words at the beginning, I would be moved. I tell you, no matter what you did, I only hate and resent you. I wish you would fall into hell forever and never be reborn. When Di Yanghe heard his words, he thought of his tragic past and couldn't help but say something. What a joke, you think hell can trap this emperor? This is the fact. With her current strength, it's only a snap of a finger to go to hell, and it's not difficult to destroy Linyu. Alas. Perhaps Di Yanghe was too dazzling in the academy, so as soon as she and Luo Ziyin left the academy, they were blocked on the way home by a group of students older than them. Di Yanghe protected Luo Ziyin behind her. She shouted at those people, if you have anything to do, come to me. You can kill me or beat me as you like, as long as you don't hurt my brother. After being yelled at by her, those students were a little confused. Then their anger level soared instantly. Isn't this person prettier than them? Even the talents they have learned for several years are surpassed by her. As a man who has suffered such grievances. So several people rushed up to teach her a lesson, and their fists were aimed at Di Yanghe's face. Di Yanghe saw everyone rushing over, raised his arms, blocked in front of Luo Ziyin, and said to him, Ziyin, run quickly, brother will protect you. After that, he yelled at the people in front of him again. Come on, kill me if you have the guts. Di Yanghe looked at how stupid she was at the time, and she was embarrassed. From this moment on, her noble and powerful image was like a grass-mud horse, running away and never to be found again. The onlookers were also stunned. Especially Luo Ziyin, whose brows were furrowed. He could not remember the time when his parents passed away. He did not expect that he and Di Yanghe had such a past. It was fake, absolutely fake, Di Yanghe would never save him. At this time, Luo Ziyin, who was only 7 years old at that time, ran away crying in front of everyone's astonishment. After Luo Ziyin left, Yanghe was beaten several times by those people, which made everyone very happy. At this time, there was only one word in their hearts, that is, good beating. Everyone wished that those people could beat Di Yanghe for a while longer. They just hated that these students were too weak, and they wished they could take their place. But soon, everyone stopped laughing. Di Yanghe suddenly slapped each of those people excitedly. Damn it, these people hit her where she shouldn't have hit, a bunch of stinky hooligans. When Luo Ziyin came with his father and the parents of the students, Di Yanghe stood there with a dusty face. And the students were sitting on the ground crying, with bright slap marks on their faces. Now it's good. They insisted that Di Yanghe had hit them. So the contradiction took a sharp turn, and the parents of these students pulled Luo's father and Di Yanghe, and insisted that they give a law. Anyway, they all said the same thing, plus there were witnesses and evidence. In the end, it was Luo's father who paid the money, and the matter was settled. When they went back, although the Luo family did not drive Di Yanghe out of the house, they were obviously not happy. After all, it would be a lie to say that they didn't feel sorry for losing hundreds of taels for no reason. But they didn't blame her, but comforted her and told her not to take it to heart. At night, Yang tossed and turned in bed, thinking about how to prevent the Luo family from being wiped out. It's just that the plot is a bit vague. She only knows that the place where the accident happened is Helly County. She has to think of a way to get them out of here as soon as possible. At this time, her door opened and Luo Xin walked in quietly. He looked at Dian Ge, who was sitting on the bed, and said, "Brother Yan, even if no one believes you, I still believe you." "They deserve it, Brother Yan, you are not wrong." After Luo Xin finished speaking, he yawned. "Xin, are you sleepy?" "I'm so sleepy." The sleeping Luo Xin lay down in Yan Ji's bed very consciously. Dian Ge patted Luo Xin. "Go to sleep. Brother will protect you." What a naive kid, I don't know how he became a villain. After all, the growth history of the villain is not recorded in the book, it will only be mentioned briefly, and she watched it in a skipping manner, and she really didn't remember some of it.
Yeah.
Luo Xin looked at Dian Ge, and unknowingly, he fell asleep with a satisfied look on his face, and slept very sweetly. But Dian Ge looked at his sleeping face, his face full of thought. Disgusting, perverted, shameless. Looking at the light curtain, Luo Xin just felt sick. Unexpectedly, he was so close to that person at that time, and showed that satisfied expression. Soon it was the next day, and Di Young didn't plan to go to school. Luo's parents followed her. Because of this matter, Luo Xin made a fuss for a while. Because it was too late, Luo's parents were in a hurry to deal with things, so they could only hand Luo Xin to Di Young to take to school. On the way to the school, they were stopped by two people in black clothes and hats. The black clothes were not serious people at first glance. Inadvertently, Di Young saw a three-legged crow tattoo on the wrists of the two people. She immediately felt the taste of courting death, stood in front of Luo Xin, and looked at them vigilantly. "What are you going to do?" "Two brothers, we just ask for directions. My brother and I have been looking for our savior, but we have searched many places and haven't found him." Before Di Yang could speak, he heard Luo Xin's innocent voice. "We just moved here last month and are not familiar with this place." The man in black asked again, "May I know your name, brother?" "I." "Xin, we should go." "What savior?" There was no sign of them looking for a savior on their faces. It was more like they were looking for an enemy. If there was any grudge, they could take it out on her, but forget about it if it was on others. So she took Luo Xin and left. After Di Young sent Luo Xin to school, she went to the darkest restaurant in the entire county. She found the owner of the restaurant and said she wanted to sell the recipe. At this time, Long Yanche spoke with disdain. "Di Young can't cook at all. I'm afraid she's going to cheat again. That's how she cheated my dragon clan members in the first place, and exchanged the clan's treasures for garbage with her." The people who had been cheated by her nodded in unison, and at the same time mocked them in various ways. Until the owner of the restaurant, he happily gave Di Young 100 taels of silver. Everyone was slapped in the face, especially Long Yanche, who immediately felt that his face was bruised, so he didn't say anything. "Boss, if I give you 9 more recipes, can you give me another 900 taels?" The shopkeeper agreed readily, and Di Yenge successfully obtained 1,002 taels of silver. However, seeing the greed that flashed in the shop owner's eyes, everyone knew that Di Yenge might not be able to keep the silver. Sure enough, not far from Di Yenge's way out of the restaurant, he was surrounded by a group of adult men. Seeing Di Yenge being surrounded, the onlookers and Luo Xin felt very happy. It would be great if these people could beat Di Yenge to death. Even if they can't kill him, it would be satisfying to watch him teach him a lesson. Hurry up, hurry up. Everyone laughed, obviously having forgotten that Di Yenge was only 8 years old at that time. Look, Di Yenge, who was also watching the show, was so angry that his face turned blue. What a group of people with bad tastes. Even they could see that the innkeeper had bad intentions. How could she not see it at that time? She did it on purpose at the beginning. Originally, everything was in her plan. She thought that if she offended the restaurant owner, she could let Luo's parents leave this place. But she didn't expect that everything would happen so quickly. When she ran out of the siege under these heavy punches and went back with the silver, it was already dark. From a distance, she saw the fire rushing in the direction of Luo's house. So the silver in her arms fell to Lin. Zine, Madame Luo. Luo Zine rushed to the light curtain in an instant, looked at the fire in the distance, and murmured, "Impossible, absolutely impossible. Di Yanga, you should run faster." Di Yanga suddenly fell while running, but she ignored her injuries and stumbled towards the bright fire. Finally, everyone saw it. In the fire, Luo's parents and the teacher who came to persuade Di Yanga to go to school were lying in a pool of blood. Seeing this, Luo Zine was a little unsteady. Why is this happening? Didn't my parents die in Di Yanga's class? This must be fake, even the Tao is lying to me. Luo Zine punched the light curtain, but the light curtain did not move. It continued to play Di Yanga's past. When Di Yanga rushed to Luo's parents, Luo's father was already dead, but Luo's mother was still breathing. She just held Di Yanga's hand tightly and sprayed a mouthful of blood on Di Yanga's face. Di Yanga didn't even wipe it off, but just knelt in front of Luo's mother. "Yanga, help me, take care of Zine. He's still, send him to Jianxin sect, there will be someone." Luo's mother pointed to the inner room where the flames were already bursting, "Save." Di Yanga didn't even have time to say a word to Luo's mother, and rushed into the inner room without hesitation. The fire was raging, and the whole house had already been burned. For immortals like them, this fire was naturally nothing. But for ordinary people, it was fatal. Everyone couldn't help but whisper. With such a big fire, the Qingyang Emperor was still an ordinary person at that time. This is not right, is this still the bloodthirsty emperor? She was also an ordinary person who was demoted to the mortal world at that time. Wouldn't she be in trouble if she rushed into the fire like this? Okay, stop guessing, isn't Di Yanga staying there? She rushed into the fire to save people, and there must be some unforgivable secret. I remember that the Qingyang Emperor became one of the emperors by relying on the immortal method passed down from his family. Luo Zine, who was standing in front of the light curtain, came back to his senses and murmured, "Even if she didn't kill my parents, she killed my master and junior sister. She rushed into the fire not to save me, but for the immortal method of my Luo family." As for the other people who were tricked by Di Yanga, they snorted disdainfully, and it was nothing. The fire of the Luo family seemed to illuminate everything. In the light of the fire, a figure rushed out holding a large ball of things. And that figure was too miserable. The clothes on his body had long been burned to tatters, especially his limbs and back, which were burned bloody, and some parts were even black. Most of his hair had been burned, and what surprised everyone the most was that half of Di Yanji's face was destroyed. Is this still the demon emperor who has always been high and mighty, self-centered, arrogant and bloodthirsty, but has a demon face? Everyone looked at Di Yenge, who was sitting on the throne with his eyes closed. It is hard to imagine that such a perfect and demon face had been destroyed like that. Except for him, everyone else was also full of disdain. And Luo Zine, who was leaning against the light curtain, couldn't help but tremble, and his face was extremely pale. Di Yanga, who was in the firelight, finally couldn't help but fall down after coming out. But before falling down, he still protected the large ball of things in his arms. Until someone who discovered the fire rushed to help. Di Yanga was still protecting the quilt and didn't let anyone move. Those who helped thought that she must have something very important in her hand. Until Di Yanga opened the cotton jacket that was already a little burnt, it was Luo Zine who was intact but had fainted. Zine, Zine. Di Yanga saw that he couldn't wake people up, and anxiously asked for help from passers-by. "You saved my brother." However, the onlookers just shook their heads. They thought they could take advantage and save people, but they would not. Seeing Di Yanga kneeling there, everyone was silent again. Is this still the cold-blooded and ruthless demon emperor? Even Di Yanga herself was a little embarrassed. She stopped looking. At that time, she really just wanted to save people. Wait, there will be more embarrassing things later. Di Yanga simply closed her eyes and stopped looking. Di Yanga in the light curtain was seen squatting beside Luo Ziyin, giving him artificial respiration. Now, whether it is the people in the light curtain or the people outside the light curtain, they were all stunned. All kinds of disgusting eyes swept over her. Disgusting, shameless. Just after Luo Ziyin finished, he woke up slowly in the light curtain. He looked at Di Yanga weakly, his face full of worry. Brother Yan, what's wrong with your face? Does it hurt? No, it doesn't hurt. It really doesn't hurt. This is one of the few benefits she has had after crossing. Brother Yan, where are Dad and Mom? Are they okay? Di Yanga comforted, they are fine. They went somewhere else, I will take you to find them. I'm glad you're okay. Luo Ziyin said, and fainted again. Di Yanga didn't care about her own injuries, and carried him on her back to find a doctor. However, she was in tattered clothes, and her body was seriously injured. In addition, she was penniless, so who would treat her? The silver she dropped before was also snatched away by the people in the restaurant. She ran to many clinics, and because of her injuries, she fell to the ground several times, but every time she protected Luo Ziyin on her back. After a lot of tossing, she was injured even more. Half of her face was extremely pale, and the other half of her face was soaked in sweat, and the wound had melted, looking extremely terrifying. If it was at this moment that she left Luo Ziyin behind and cleaned the wound. With her divine veins, the wound could gradually recover. But if this continued, not only would Di Yanga's face not be saved, but perhaps even his life. At this moment, Luo Ziyin was a burden to her. But Di Yanga wanted a burden. If he could save a person in this world and then die, it would be a worthy death. Everyone looked at the scene in front of them and couldn't help shaking their heads, while Luo Ziyin, who was watching in front of the light curtain, bit his lips tightly, with disbelief on his face. He never thought that Di Yanga had done so much for him. Impossible, absolutely impossible. How could Di Yanga do this for me? She must have done it to find out the whereabouts of Qingyang Xianju. And she also killed her senior sister and master, he would not forgive her. However, at this moment, he did not dare to look at Di Yanga on the throne. Probably because she was really tired. After stumbling again, Di Yanga tried for a long time but still couldn't get up. At that time, Di Yanga really thought she was going to die, but who knew it was a big pit. A rain fell on her, washing her wounds. Such wounds soaked in the rain are really easy to hurt more, but Di Yanga didn't care. Anyway, she was thinking about dying. And the injuries on her body were not very painful. Soon, Di Yanga recovered again, and she found that Luo Ziyin's breath was getting weaker and weaker. Seeing that this good villain was about to die, she couldn't bear it, so she hardened her heart and knelt at the door of a clinic. At that time, she thought that if she knelt and died here, it would be to die for saving people, and it should be a worthy death. However, her idea was very good, but she didn't expect that she could hold on so well. She knelt all night, and the rain soaked her wounds and caused symptoms such as fever. She knelt there with half of her face pale, and the wound on the other side was already swollen. She was trembling and seemed to fall down at any time, but she still did not forget to protect Luo Ziyin, who was placed under the eaves by her, and tried her best to prevent him from being drenched by the rain. The people outside the light curtain were extremely shocked. If it weren't for the fact that everything in front of them was sent down by the Tao, they would even think that all this was fake. How could a cold-blooded person like Di Yanga do such a thing? Finally, perhaps Di Yanga's behavior affected the business of the clinic, and the people in the clinic had to take the person in first. After entering, the doctor was also shocked by Di Yanga's injuries, but as the culprit who affected his business, he decided to make things difficult for him. He pointed at her and Luo Ziyin, "You and him, I will only save one person." After hearing this, Di Yanga's face was full of surprise. "Thank you, doctor, you just need to save my brother. When I have money in the future, I will definitely repay you." The doctor naturally didn't believe such words. After all, Di Yanga's injuries were too severe. Even though she is still alive and kicking now, she may die in 2 days. After checking Luo Ziyin's injuries, the old doctor sighed helplessly. Sorry, I can't do anything. How about I take a look at your injuries? I don't want you to treat it. You just need to heal him. No matter what you want me to do, as long as you can heal him. The old doctor looked at Di, who was trying to heal his brother regardless of his own injuries. Then he thought of his useless grandson. They were both children, but why was there such a big difference? Di suggested, Doctor, did he inhale too much poisonous smoke, so his 5 internal organs are not good? Do you think you can replace my 5 internal organs with his? The old doctor's face suddenly flushed. How can I have that ability? Only the medical immortals in the Divine Doctor Valley can replace organs under this level. Di's eyes lit up, and the hope of death appeared in his eyes again. Where are they? I will definitely ask them to treat my brother. Of course, in the eyes of others, Di was too good to Luo Xin, so good that people were jealous. Especially those who were cheated by Di, they gnashed their teeth at Luo Xin. The old doctor told Di the address. After singing, he said to her, I'd better take a look at your wound first. Di, who liked to commit suicide, just shook his head, hurriedly carried the still unconscious Luo Xin on his back and left. However, he took away the raincoat given to her by the old doctor. Di carried Luo Xin on his back and walked slowly and steadily step by step. The rain was still falling. Luo Xin was wearing the only raincoat on his body. From dark to light, and from light to dark. I don't know how long they walked. The rain had stopped long ago, and Di's wounds became more and more shocking, and everyone even couldn't bear to look directly at it. Finally, Di carried people and came to the Divine Doctor Valley, where the medical immortal was said to have a medical fairy. This place has beautiful scenery and it is a good place at first glance. The most important thing is to listen and you can die. If you want to go to the Divine Doctor Valley for medical treatment, in addition to queuing up devoutly, you also have to see if the medical immortal is in the mood to treat you. But there is another tradition here, that is to go to Huangquan Road. Of course, this Huangquan Road is not the real Huangquan, but a title. As long as you can walk out of Huangquan Road, the medical immortal will definitely treat the patient. However, since the emergence of the Divine Doctor Valley, no one has ever walked out of Huangquan Road. Di's eyes lit up again. It was obviously time for her to die again. A group of people who also came to seek medical treatment were stunned when they learned that Di was going to go to Huangquan Road. They were full of awe and sympathy for Di, especially when they saw that she was still carrying such serious injuries, they admired her even more. The look in their eyes was as if she was going to die in the next second. Brother, this Huangquan Road is a life and death situation. If you go, you may not be able to save your brother, and you may even die there. Yes, brother, since the emergence of the Divine Doctor Valley, hundreds of people have entered Huangquan, but no one has come out alive from there. Di was immediately excited. Isn't this the result she wants? So she was determined to go and try. Luo Xin, who was still unconscious, was arranged to stay in the place that Divine Doctor Valley had arranged for him. Di entered the Yellow Spring Road without hesitation. Di looked at the wall of fire in front of her face changed slightly, and she was a little excited. Because she found that this fire was not an ordinary fire. She had already come into close contact with this ordinary fire. And the flame in front of her was obviously a high-end one. The kind that could definitely kill her. Seeing Di's face change slightly, everyone thought she was scared by the wall of fire. They immediately looked down on her. However, the next second, Di tightened her already tattered clothes in front of her and rushed into the wall of fire. The sizzling sound sounded a little creepy, and Di even smelled a barbecue smell. The fire was a good fire, but it seemed to be of no use to her. But after a while, she had walked out of the fire. It was just that the original wound was a little scorched, and her beautiful hair had been burned, adding insult to injury, but she was still strong. The only thing to be thankful for was that the fire did not burn her clothes, otherwise it would be really embarrassing. What's going on? Di seems to have nothing to do. What about the Yellow Spring Road? It's just a name for nothing. I wanted to see Di suffer, but I only saw loneliness. It's boring. Emperor Qingyang, what's wrong? At this time, someone found that Luo Xin, who was standing in front of the light curtain, was a little abnormal. His brows were slightly frowned, as if he was holding back something. Luo Xin responded, "It's okay." Since he was like this, everyone stopped looking at him and continued to watch Di Yang's good show. I just hope that Di Yang can suffer more. Behind the firewall is an ice room. The temperature in the ice room is extremely low. Once he entered the ice room, countless ice blades flew towards Di Yang from all directions. Di Yang was shocked, so he could only try his best to protect the already tattered clothes in front of him. One after another, the ice blades flew to Lin Yang's body, cutting one cut after another, making the already shocking skin even more scarred. Di Yang, as if she had no feeling at all, walked forward numbly, leaving behind a trail of dazzling red footprints. Only when the ice blade flew to her body would her body tremble slightly, indicating that she was still alive. If Di Yang had not had divine blood, she would have died long ago. Coming out of the ice room, there was no good flesh under Di Yang's tattered clothes. Some people even felt sad. No matter how hateful she was now, she was just a person who wanted to save the child at that time. Di Yang tightened her tattered clothes again. Her body couldn't help but tremble slightly because of the movement. Everyone knew that she was in pain. Thousands of cuts and pieces were nothing more than that. At that time, her immortal veins were sealed, and she was just a mortal. She would bleed and cry like a mortal, and she would also feel pain. How painful would such an injury be? What kind of belief could make the evil emperor do this? If it were them, would they save people like this? At least they would not do such a thing for a person who had nothing to do with them. Luo Xin was with Emperor Yan Gu only because of the kindness of Luo Xin's parents. Why did it come to this? Luo Xin touched the light curtain with one hand, and beads of sweat covered his forehead. Emperor Qingyang, what's wrong with you? A fairy maiden who had a crush on Luo Xin saw that he was not in a good condition, so she immediately walked in front of him and said with concern. However, as soon as her hand touched the light curtain, she screamed and fell directly on Lin. What's wrong with her? Could it be that this light curtain cannot be touched? Everyone looked at Luo Xin and saw that he was standing in front of the light curtain and his hand touched it. Although he was also a little bit wrong, his condition was slightly better than that of the fairy maiden. This mirror was Luo Xin's contract treasure. It was said that he got it by chance when he was in the lower world. It has many wonderful uses. Could there be any problem? Luo Xin said bitterly, the person who touches the light curtain can feel half of the pain of the person in the light curtain. After hearing this, everyone was stunned. But how painful can half of the pain of an ordinary person be to make a fairy maiden fall to the ground and refuse to get up? So a few people who didn't believe in evil immediately stretched out their hands. Ouch. Puff. There was even one who vomited blood in excitement. After recovering, the man said in disbelief, How is this possible? It's just an ordinary ice blade, how can it be so painful? Is the Divine Doctor Valley an ordinary place? This half of the pain is so. As they said this, everyone glanced at Di Yenge, who was resting with her eyes closed on the throne. There is a reason why their evil demon emperor can become the most powerful person in the entire 90 worlds. If she hadn't gone astray, it would be great. At this time, everyone couldn't help but become curious. What exactly did Di Yenge go through to become such a cruel and inhumane demon emperor from a tough, simple and kind boy? And Luo Xin just glanced at her with a pale face, feeling sour in his heart. He really didn't know that Di Yenge had done so much for him. He only remembered that when he woke up, he was already in Jianxin sect, with the kindest master and the gentlest senior sister by his side. At this time, Di Yenge on the other side had already arrived in front of the knife mountain. The knife that cut iron like mud all the way, with the blade facing up, covered the entire road. Everyone's scalp was numb. How perverted must a person be to come up with such a test? Just looking at these made her feel pain under her feet. Pervert, really perverted. At the same time, an old voice sounded. I advise you to go back now. You can't hold on like this. Maybe if you go back, you can see your brother for the last time. Di Yanga was just stunned for a moment, with a slight tremor in his voice. I want to save him. The old man looked at Di Yanga with admiration. Son, I admire your resilience. After passing this level, I can make an exception and accept you as my apprentice. I just want to save him. In fact, Di Yanga was also shocked by the injuries on her body at this time. Although she didn't feel much pain, there was a kind of pain that hurt just by looking at it. She felt like this at this time, and the injury was still on her body. Wait, Di Yanga still spoke out. This is good, and immediately one of the onlookers laughed. I knew that Di Yanga would never save people. She must be afraid. She is going to regret it. Yes. After all, she was still a child at that time. It's normal to be afraid. The old man turned and looked at Di Yanga. What? Do you regret it? Then I will let you go back now. Di Yanga looked at the old man with her only remaining eye. Uncle, can you give me a piece of clothing? The old man glared at her, and finally threw his robe to her. Di Yanga took the robe and wrapped it around her body directly to avoid almost exposing herself, and to avoid being scared by the wounds on her body. After wrapping herself up, she did not forget to say to the old man gratefully, Thank you, Grandpa. The old man took a few breaths, turned around and left. He was a great medical immortal, admired by thousands of people, but he didn't expect that there was someone who was called Grandpa. At that time, Di Yanga's thoughts were just to die. But I didn't expect that the medical immortals of this era would be so nice. So, this death, she can only rely on herself. She turned around and looked at the mountain of knives in front of her. It hasn't passed yet, and she already felt a little scared. There is a kind of pain, called pain just looking at it. Although she didn't feel much pain, her legs looked a little weak. But thinking of the painful look of her family before her death in her previous life, she hardened her heart and stepped on it. With a puff, the knife sank into the sole of her foot and got stuck in the bone. The scarlet blood soaked the shiny blade. Everyone couldn't help but swallow their saliva. And Luo Xin almost lost his footing. He has always been smooth sailing and has never suffered too much. But he didn't let go. It seemed that only by doing this could he repay what Di Yanga had done for him. Since Di Yanga took the first step, there was no turning back. She hardened her heart, anyway, she was determined to die. She only hoped that she could pass this level before she died. Then she would die and Luo Xin would live. It would not be in vain for her to come to this world. Step by step, as long as you don't look at the shiny knife under your feet, it is actually not that scary, just think of it as, this is a way back home from hell. Thinking of losing everything to save her family, Di Yanga raised a warm smile on half of her face. She will definitely go back. This is a gentle and affectionate smile that no one has ever seen on Di Yange's face. It seems that for her, as long as she can save Luo Xin, she will be so happy. Di Yanga, why are you so good to Luo Xin? If you had been half as good to me as I was to him, I wouldn't. Mo Changlu looked at Di Yanga's pure and heartwarming smile in the light screen unwillingly, and he actually felt a little jealous of Luo Xin. In addition to the pain in his body, Luo Xin's heart was full of bitterness. When he knew what his senior sister had done for him, he had already been attracted to her, but why was his heart beating wildly now? He should hate her, but why can't he hate her at all now? Brother, Luo Xin whispered softly, his eyes were slightly red, and his body was a little unstable. The knife mountain was full of scarlet. How much blood does a person have to dye this knife mountain red? Seeing Di Yanga walking towards the end step by step, everyone's heart was in a knot. Although they hated Lin Yanga very much, no matter what, Di Yanga was not only a child at that time, but also had nothing to regret for what he did. Seeing that Di Yanga was about to reach the end, everyone was about to let go of their worries. Somehow, Di Yanga suddenly slipped and fell heavily to the ground. Ah! This was the cry of everyone. Di Yanga had been silent since she fell. The whole person seemed to be embedded in a mountain of knives. The white clothes given to her by the old man were cut into tatters. The blood on her body kept flowing down, as if all the blood on her body was drained. Demon Emperor, is she going to die? How is it possible? If she died, who is here now? Some people even cheered for Di Yengu secretly. Demon Emperor, aren't you the Demon Emperor? You should hurry up at this distance. Seeing that there was only so much distance to go, Di Yengu could only protect her chest and climb forward with her limbs in order to survive. A few steps away made her sweat profusely and her whole body tremble. It was not because of the pain, but because she was really too weak. She felt dizzy and even her eyes were blurred. She just relied on her will to survive to hold on. Until they passed the refining mountain, many people breathed a sigh of relief, and Di Yengu seemed to have lost track of himself. She had come over, but she was still crawling there stiffly. The blood all over the ground was all for Luo Xin. Everyone was silent again. And Luo Xin had been leaning against the light curtain, kneeling on the ground with tears streaming down her face since someone knew when. The pain all over his body made him understand that she was so painful and helpless at that time. But all this was just to save him, but he knew nothing. Brother, at this time, the old man finally appeared. He looked at Di Yengu, who was covered in blood but still climbing stiffly, with excitement in his eyes. After thousands of years, someone finally managed to break through this Yellow Springs formation. I, Xianzi, finally have a successor. From now on, you will be the only inheritor of the Xuani Xianzong. Hearing the old man's words, everyone was in an uproar. What? Xianzi? Xianyi Xianzong? Is he the Xianzi who saved my wife's life? He has always been wearing a mask. I always thought he was some immortal. I didn't expect him to be such an old man with an immortal style. But he also died at the hands of Di Yengu in the end. Many people present have received favors from Xianzi. But when they thought of their benefactor being killed by Di Yengu, the little bit of good feelings they had for Di Yengu suddenly disappeared. Di Yengu on the throne felt the gazes of the crowd, and she thought these people didn't hate her enough. She looked at everyone with provocative eyes, and her lips were full of teasing smiles. Xianzi was killed by this emperor. If you have the ability, come and kill this emperor. Otherwise, when this emperor comes out, you will suffer. No, a stone stirred up 1,000 waves, and everyone's hatred for Di Yengu instantly soared to an unprecedented height. Di Yengu looked at the eyes of the people who dared to be angry but not to speak, and smiled more and more evilly. But there was something far-fetched in this evil smile. Fortunately, these people were also simple-minded and could not withstand her provocation. However, Xianzi from now on was the matter of one of her vests, and I don't know how long she can hide it. The slightly bitter corners of Di Yengu's lips were still seen by the person who had been peeking at her. The person was mixed in the crowd and stared at her with the same resentful eyes. Everyone present hated her, but not as much as he hated her. Di Yengu seemed to have sensed something, and suddenly looked back, but saw nothing. She immediately smiled provocatively in the direction of that person, extremely arrogant. This guy who was hiding must be a bad guy. If she hadn't been trapped here and couldn't use her cultivation, how could she not see that there was someone there? But even if she couldn't see it, she could still feel it. There was no way, she was just so powerful. The man received the look in Di Yengu's eyes and was immediately angry. Xianzi grabbed the wounded Di Yengu and threw her into a bucket. The 3 lights divine water cannot be endured by anyone who is not determined. That's why I set up this yellow spring array to select a suitable successor. After being washed by the divine water, your blood, flesh, bones, spirit, soul, and true spirit will be tempered. From now on, you will be able to soar and become the only successor of my Xuani Xianzong. Remember not to let others know about the 3 lights divine water. After hearing Xianzi's words, everyone was furious. Everyone chattered and looked at the bucket of water in the light curtain. Sure enough. Looking closely at the bucket of water, it actually emitted 3-color light. That is the 3 lights divine water that is said to be hard to come by. Even if there is only 1 drop, it can make a mortal sore when practicing, and it is only a matter of time before he ascends to the upper realm, not to mention that there is a large bucket in front of him. This Emperor Yanghe is so lucky to have such a big bucket of 3 lights divine water. It's hard for her not to become the emperor. It's not fair, it's not fair. Why is Emperor Yanghe so lucky? Don't be unfair. Even if you are given this thing, do you think you can bear the pain brought by the 3 lights divine water? Don't forget that the 3 lights divine water is composed of 3 kinds of divine water, each of which is the essence of the earth and can be reversed. Of course, the stronger the person, the more pain they endure. Don't look at Emperor Yanghe as a child, but don't forget that she has a divine vein and is born to be a strong person. You may not be able to endure the pain she endures. If you don't believe me, go touch the light curtain. At this time, a scream came from Luo Xin. Luo Xin fainted directly. Those who wanted to refute it dared not say a word. This half of the pain can make them handsome. Emperor, who has never shown any emotions in front of others, has become like this. How dare they try again? They looked at Emperor Yanghe in the light curtain. Maybe she was in too much pain, she was struggling there. Di Yanghe didn't listen to what Xianzi said. She only felt that her injuries were recovering rapidly. The wounds on her body disappeared little by little, revealing skin that was even whiter and smoother than before. Damn it, she didn't want to recover. So she struggled harder. And this holy water was the only stock of the Xuanyi Xianzong in the entire sect. Every drop of it was the good fortune of the earth. How could it be wasted? So Xianzi forcefully pressed Di Yanghe into the water. Master knows the pain of your transformation by the 3 lights holy water, but only by enduring this endless suffering can you become a superior person. Child, you must hold on. Sister Di Yanghe wanted to struggle out of the bucket, but she was kept pressed into the water. As a result, she gulped down several mouthfuls of bath water, which made her sick. At this time, her bath water had turned black and exuded a sour and refreshing stench, which immediately made her sick. I don't know how long it took. Xianzi finally fished her out. Di Yanghe was still tightly wrapped in her torn clothes. Even though he was covered in mud, his face was too delicate, and his long black hair had long since returned to its original state. Xianzi looked at Di Yanghe and said excitedly, "Good, you have the grace of my old age. Child, what's your name? Please. After that, you will be the 888th generation disciple of Xuanyi Xianzong, and also my disciple. The future of the sect depends on you." Di Yanghe rolled his eyes at him directly. "Wait, I refuse. I don't want to be your disciple, I just want to save my brother. This Xuanyi Xianzong, it sounds like a serious sect, it feels like it is going to prevent her from going home." So she refused immediately. Huh? Both Xianzi and the onlookers were a little surprised, obviously they didn't expect Di Yanghe to refuse. After all, Xuanyi Xianzong, in the mortal world, is a sect that everyone fights for. There is only one disciple in the sect, that is, whoever becomes a disciple of Xuanyi Xianzong can have the entire Xuanyi Xianzong's legend. Although there are not many disciples in Xuanyi Xianzong, they are all powerful, have saved countless people, and have obtained countless resources for saving people. It is said that the resources they have are comparable to the 7 major sects in the cultivation world. When Xianzi heard Di Yanghe's refusal, he was also confused for a long time and said, "Don't you know that my Xuanyi Xianzong?" "I don't want to know, I just want to save my brother." Looking at Di Yanghe, who looked unmoved. Xianzi's face immediately turned cold, and the two of them kept confronting each other, and it seemed that neither of them was willing to admit defeat. Seeing this, the people outside the light curtain were also anxious. After all, it was a huge blow to the Xuanyi Xianzong to pass on this good inheritance to Lin Yanghe. Especially when they thought that Xianzi also died in her hands, they resented her even more. However, they could do nothing and could only watch Xianzi grab Di Yanghe. "You have already received the 3 lights divine water of our sect. Whether you admit it or not, you are already a disciple of my Xuanyi Xianzong. How could a child with such a character not be a good child?" Although the other party was a little stubborn in her words, Xianzi still saw through her. But after he pulled Di Yanghe over, he immediately found something wrong. Di Yang seemed to sense what Xianzi wanted to say, and interrupted him immediately. Old man, I'm his brother. No matter how difficult it is, I must save my brother. Xianzi didn't care about the man and woman anymore. Now there is still one biggest problem. Your bones and muscles are not ordinary, but why is your blood still blocked? Even the most useless blood will not be like this after being baptized by the three lights divine water. How can you practice if your blood is blocked? And why don't you have any spiritual roots? As long as you are a person, no matter how poor your aptitude is, you will have useless spiritual roots. Why don't you have anything? Di Yang showed joy on his face. Old man, forget it. If you really want to accept a disciple, you can cure my brother and accept him as your disciple. No, you have used up all the three lights divine water of our sect. You are my disciple. Even though Di Yang persuaded him for a while, he still couldn't change Xianzi's madness. He was like fighting with Di Yang. He held Di Yang tightly and didn't let go. After an unknown amount of time, Xianzi excitedly pulled Di Yang. I finally know. Are your blood and spiritual roots sealed? There are 12 divine seals on your body. You are not a human at all. You are not a human. Well, what I mean is that you are not immortal. Xuanzi was also very excited. The girl in front of him was probably here to cross the river. A mortal who had been through a catastrophe. When his lifespan was almost over, he encountered such a treasure. Finally, he died with his eyes closed. But it was very difficult to break the seal on Di Yang. He said distressedly, the breaking of each seal may make you live a life worse than death, and one careless move may lead to premature death. But if you can unlock all the seals, you can fly. Di Yang didn't hear the rest, she only heard one sentence, premature death. There is such a good thing? She immediately became interested, how to open the seal. Practice. When your cultivation reaches a bottleneck, your seal will attract the 9 heavens thunder tribulation. After the thunder tribulation, the seal can be broken. Di Yang said regretfully, but don't you have no spiritual roots and immortal veins, so you can't practice? I have always had a question. You and your brother are blood relatives. Why did you save him at the risk of death? Is it worth it for you to do so much for a mortal? His parents have been kind to me, and he will always be my brother. Di Yang's voice was sonorous and powerful, and his face was full of seriousness. Brother. Luo Xin had already woken up. He looked at Di Yang and couldn't help but wet his eyes. Although she did so many wrong things later, at least she was still his brother at that time. But wrong is wrong. When she redeems her sins, he will definitely give her a grand funeral. Hearing Di Yang's words, Xianzi looked extremely satisfied. Okay, very good. I didn't misjudge you. Then I will help you break through this first seal. Then, Xianzi grabbed Di Yang and used all his cultivation to attack the seal. Seeing this, everyone couldn't help but feel unfair for Xianzi. Xianzi, you have always been a good person. It's a pity that he didn't know that he saved an ungrateful person. This ungrateful person will harm him in the future. Repaying kindness with enmity, what kind of beast is this? I can't stand it. Di Yang, why didn't you just die? In the dark clouds, tumbling in the clouds like a purple dragon. Rumble. Thunder and lightning roared, as if thousands of troops were galloping. Everyone who came to the Divine Doctor Valley for medical treatment looked at the top with shocking eyes and fear. The oppression that was like the end of the world made them kneel on the ground in fear. The terrifying aura continued to spread, and even the people outside the light curtain were shocked by the shocking thunder. Just looking at it, it felt stronger than the thunder when they ascended. Especially the purple arc of electricity, in an instant, it had condensed into a thickness thicker than a bucket. Everyone's face was full of caution, only Di Yang looked at the world-shaking thunder above his head, his eyes were eager to try. At this time, accompanied by the terrifying aura, a purple thunder as thick as a bucket broke through the sky and fell down, and the target was Di Yang. At this moment, Di Yang really felt the coming of death. You can do this for a brother who has no blood relationship with you. I am relieved to hand over the Xuanyi Xianzong to you. Before Di Yang could hear what he said clearly, he was pushed away by Xianzi. Purple thunder struck his body and kept jumping on him. Xianzi's whole body seemed to be bathed in a purple light. Even if Xianzi tried hard to hold back, he couldn't help but screamed. Old man, what are you doing here? Di Yang wanted to rush over excitedly, but when she rushed over, the purple light had disappeared. Although Xianzi was still standing there, looking at his gray face and the mess on his body, it was clear that he was in a very bad state. Old man, are you okay? Why are you so stupid? This kind of thunder is none of your business. What can I do? You are my disciple. Remember, you owe me a favor. In the future, Xuanyi Xianzong will rely on you. Xianzi is also a stubborn person. This bad temper is not much different from Di Yang. Then, he flipped his hand, and a golden seed emerged from his palm. Then, he waved his hand and the seed was injected into Lin Yang's forehead. This is the complete inheritance of my Xuanyi Xianzong. When you reach a certain level of cultivation, you will be able to open it. From now on, Xuanyi Xianzong will be handed over to you. And the skills of our sect, you must also practice well. If you really don't want this Xuanyi Xianzong, find a successor for it. After that, Xianzi turned around and coughed lightly. But what came out of the cough was blood, which made everyone's heart tighten. But Di Yang behind him didn't notice it. Old man, are you okay? Then can you save my brother? Your brother is fine. Can you call me master? After a long time, Xianzi didn't wait for Di Yang to speak. He regretfully planned to leave. At this time, a voice suddenly sounded behind him, Master, my name is Yan Ge. Wait, Master, do you know the three-legged crow tattoo? Xianzi paused, but didn't look back. Three-legged crow? Yan Ge, if you haven't reached the Golden Core realm, don't mention this matter again. You must remember what your master said. After Xianzi finished speaking, he left impatiently. At that time, Emperor Yan Ge didn't know Xianzi's true identity. She had never known why Xianzi left in such a hurry, but now, she understood. Xianzi's lifespan was already over. And after he was struck by the thunderbolt, he was destined to die. But he was stubborn and didn't want to fall in front of his apprentice. Everyone looked at the departing Xianzi with sympathy. Xianzi will be okay. He just suffered the thunderbolt of the 9 skies. Even if there was only one strike, even people from the upper realms could die, not to mention that he is just a cultivator from the lower realm. He should be okay. After all, he died at the hands of Emperor Yan Ge. Emperor Yan Ge is an ungrateful beast. He didn't even let go of such a kind teacher. If it weren't for Xianzi, she would have died long ago. Di Yang brought Luo Xin, and after going through various twists and turns, they finally arrived at the main city protected by Jianxin sect. Jianxin sect, the name of the sect sounds a bit high-sounding, but it is just a sect in the lower world of this world. Among the sects in the lower world, there is not even a ranking. Sakura, the highest cultivation level in the sect, is a Jindan cultivator. But for these ordinary people, Jianxin sect is already considered an immortal. Di Yang didn't know who Luo's mother asked him to find in Jianxin sect. Finally, she found out that Jianxin sect would recruit disciples tomorrow. Anyone can go to test their spiritual roots and bloodline. Once they pass, they can become disciples of Jianxin sect. The next morning, Luo Xin was pulled up by Di Yang to take the aptitude test. After all, only by getting this boy into Jianxin sect first, she could better commit suicide. As a future villain, in Di Yang's opinion, it would be absolutely no problem for Luo Xin to enter a sect. Although Di Yang is really a nobody now, at least at that time, she had him in her eyes and heart. He always felt that she went to the sword tomb because of him. Luo Xin was getting more and more upset. He always felt that if he continued to watch, he would lose control, but he had to watch. He had to find out what happened. He wanted to know why his memory was different from Di Yang's. At this time, a harsh exclamation came from the light curtain, "Impossible, how could I be a useless spiritual root?" I want to join the Sword Heart sect. I beg you to accept me as your disciple. The disciple of the Sword Heart sect looked at the somewhat embarrassed boy in front of him with contempt, and pointed at Younga and said, "A useless spiritual root still wants to join my Sword Heart sect. You can learn from that guy to go to the Sword Tomb. As long as you can survive and take a sword out of the Sword Tomb, you will be the disciple of the elder of the Sword Heart sect." Sword Tomb. I'll go. The boy turned his head and looked over. At a glance, he saw the most dazzling boy in the crowd. After seeing her face clearly, he felt that she was very unpleasant for no reason. And Younga also saw him. The other person was about 12 years old, wearing a somewhat ragged black brocade, with all his hair tied up, with a few strands of hair a little messy, but he had an upright posture and handsome features. Although he had not grown up yet, he already had a kind of sharpness that could not be concealed. This should be the hero Xiaoju. She smiled at him slightly, full of provocation. Humph. Xiaoju snorted with contempt. Wanting to please him and let him take care of her in the Sword Tomb was simply a dream. Outside the light curtain, the onlookers couldn't help but speak. They flirted with each other when they first met. As expected, a pair of demons are not good things.